All right, good afternoon and welcome to our channel. Today, I'd like to discuss if seniors can qualify for Section 8 housing. And sometimes when you're on a fixed income and you're at retirement, or maybe there are other issues going on, you need help. And being part of paying all those taxes all those years allows you to participate in federal housing if there's an actual need or cause for that by virtue of being low income and also being a senior. Now, there will be a distinction between seniors and elderly, but I'm going to clear that up. And also, I'm going to put some notes in both the comments section as well as the description. That way, if I go too quickly or you may have a learning disability, you can draw back on those notes later to help figure out your circumstances. But before I do all that, I'm going to move my face around a little bit and we're going to take a look at some company information real quick and then move my face right over to the right so you can kind of watch me a little bit. But if you look up here, you'll see our phone number, my company address, as well as email. I operated at the federal level for nearly 26 years, helping a little over 20,000 clients over my career. We are a private solution company that deals with helping people assist and navigate through Section 8 programs, federal programs, low income housing, and so forth. So, with that being said, I'm going to bring in some notes to help you guys out. And then we're going to take a look at all the requirements under federal rules, Title 24, and along with policy and procedure to help you seniors out there better understand what your options are if you are low income or fixed income. So, as you know, seniors can qualify for Section 8 officially, and it's called the Housing Choice Voucher Program. If they meet applicable income and program requirements, HUD specifically identifies elderly households as one of the populations for that the program essentially assists with. However, being a senior does not automatically guarantee approval or immediate housing assistance. So, but I will tell you that, obviously being 62 years and older does greatly help and expedite your process to deal with housing, get a voucher. And I should also note there are veritable types of housing you can apply for, not just the housing choice voucher, but low income housing, affordable housing, and a few other programs. So, as I go on to say, so what age does HUD consider elderly? Well, to be frank with you, I don't like to call anybody in their 60s elderly, but I would imagine for this case scenario and federal rules, you need to be 62 years and older, right? So a senior. And then, of course, when you reach your 80s, that would be a more practicality of elderly. So under both circumstances, as long as you're a head of household, a spouse, a co-head, or the sole household member, and you're at least 62 years and older within 3 months at least, then this would be sufficient for you to at least investigate. An elderly or senior family member can include two or more people at the age of 62 years old living together, or an elderly person living with an approved living aid. And I'm going to include some HUD HCB eligibility guidebook to help you further explain in a very basic way. A person does not necessarily have to be 62 to apply for regular housing choice voucher programs. Younger adults may qualify based on income, family status, disability, and other eligibility factors. But at age 62, this becomes especially important for seniors that are designated in housing as elderly household deductions. And so I don't know why they phrase it up that way, but I will tell you this. It's going to be on the basis of both age and income. So main eligibility requirements is income. The eligibility primarily is based on the household's total annual income, household size, and HUD's income limits for the area, better known as Area Medium Income, or AMI. Most new voucher recipients must be extremely low income or very low income. Federal rules generally require that at least 75% of the families admitted from the PHA waiting list be extremely low income. And don't worry, for most of you, that usually means having a fixed income between 500 and probably a little over $1,500. Pretty much puts you variably in that, unless you live in an extremely poor town to start with. Income limits vary significantly by county and metropolitan area. And so the larger the city, the better you're going to do, obviously. The smaller or the more economically depressed town that you're in, the closer it's going to be a little bit harder. You may not qualify, okay? So household size and, of course, program and properties do matter. So a senior may qualify in one jurisdiction but exceed the limit in another, of course. And so the official FY 2026 limits can be checked through HUD's income limit system. And I'm going to link that up in here as you see in blue. Your Social Security and retirement income do count. And so receiving Social Security, does not disqualify a senior. However, most reoccurring income must be reported, including Social Security, retirement benefits, supplemental Social Security income, pensions, retirement account distributions, employment or self-employment income, regular financial contributions from other people, income generated by assets, and other certain annuities and payments. There's actually 14 pages on income and assets. So, but in most circumstances, unless you're independently wealthy or you own a sprawling property along with 4 or 5 different types of checks coming in, you should qualify normally as most seniors do. A senior with only a Social Security or SSI may also still qualify for the household's countable income, which falls below the applicable limit. In other words, most people are going to pre-qualify on the basis of just receiving Social Security. Number three, in assets, owning a vehicle, having a bank account, or possessing modest savings does not automatically disqualify someone. Those rules are variable depending on state and county, but most of you can have anywhere from 5,000 and in some cases as much as 100,000 in your account. But it's good to check on that. The housing authority will certainly examine checking and savings accounts, investments, real estate, trust, retirement accounts, assets transferred to other people, and income generated by assets. You may find in some circumstances, like in the state of Florida, when many seniors tend to get pushed to that state for retirement, they usually use a irrevocable trust where PHAs and other organizations can't pierce the corporate shield. In other words, a tax structure to kind of hide assets and so on. That may be applicable under certain circumstances, but I would advise you to reach out to a company, either mine or another, that's qualified to discuss that topic. Applicants must disclose all requested income and assets. The rules can be used depending on the program and the housing authority's implementation under HOTMA requirements. In case you're wanting to understand, HOTMA is just a set of requirements under federal rules to kind of guide you through the process of what the rules are going to be for the program under HAP contract. And you're going to learn all these nifty little acronyms as you get further into a lot of the videos that even our office makes. So, citizenship or eligibility under immigration status. Look, you need to be a legal resident or you need to be legally here. That's permitted under the current administration's rules and policies. This particular administration, as of now, the Trump administration, is very specific about that. You need to prove that you are a U.S. citizen or qualified to be in the country. There'll be no other exemptions, unfortunately, in this circumstance. So make sure you definitely check it out if you have questions about a green card or your immigration status. Now you can look at that under HUD's Housing Choice Voucher Eligibility Information. Do be aware they do NCIC, so they do check a lot of things besides immigration as well as criminal screening as well. The arrest records don't count. Moving on from there, we have screening requirements. The housing authorities may review your criminal history, previous federally assisted housing violations, if you have any, money owed to any housing authority in America. That's extremely difficult for them to figure out. Trust me, they're not all connected. Past evictions, fraud or false statements, lease compliance history, and whether or not household members are subject to a mandatory federal probation. So there's a number of things they look at, and that can also vary greatly depending on the state and county that you might live in. Not every criminal record results in automatic denial. So let's go over what I know for a fact. Doing this for a long time, unless you've been convicted of the use, manufacture of, or distribution of methamphetamines, you have a criminal history that going back longer than 10 years in an aggravated crime against a person, or you have a circumstance where you are a registered SO or sex offender. Those are usually the things they're looking for. Otherwise, if you kept things clean and have not committed or reoffended, probably in the last 5 to 10 years, it should not be too big of an issue, but it still does very much depend. Now, that only speaks to the housing authority, whether you get approved for a voucher. It does not clear the way or mean that you're going to be able to do business with a landlord. Landlords have a different set of rules for criminal history. So, do seniors receive special preference? Absolutely. And trust me, the housing authority will never publish that. So, yes, they often try to work with seniors more than others, along with the disabled and homeless. It's possible, but again, not automatic. So, the housing authority may establish a lawful waiting list preferences for applicants who are elderly, disabled, homeless, displaced, a veteran, living or working in the jurisdiction, experiencing a qualified local hardship. In other words, in the administrative plan, where they determine how they're going to address all circumstances related to federal housing, you may be able to claim a local hardship. Okay, these preferences differ between housing authorities, and a senior should obtain a PHA's administrative plan. You can do so by doing a Freedom of Information Act directly to the housing authority or their in-house counsel, and then you can request a digital copy, meaning email their administrative plan. If you don't indicate that, they will sit by the Xerox machine and they will print out thousands of pages and try to bill you for upwards of $1,000, commonly around 300 for their costs. Okay, so make sure you get a digital copy they can email. These preferences differ between housing authorities. A senior should obtain a PHA's administrative plan, as I mentioned. And so we're going to move on. Seniors housing is not limited to regular vouchers. As I had mentioned before, there are roughly, in my last count over the last 25 years, I have encountered up to 130 different types of vouchers and housing programs, not excluding also specialized programs and special use vouchers under Title 24. We won't jump down that rabbit hole today to learn all of that, but needless to say, I'm going to cover the more primary ones that many of you have heard of. The Housing Choice Voucher, which is rental assistance used to participate with private landlords, meaning you've got a voucher, and that's what most people commonly refer to as Section 8. Then you have project-based vouchers. When you have that type of voucher, it means that the housing authority you're dealing with will also become your landlord. In other words, they own the building, so you'll receive a project-based voucher in that circumstance. And so I don't recommend that, but if the housing market's tight and you're having difficulty getting a housing solution, then project-based can be considered, as long as it does not affect your safety. Okay, so you have public housing, that is housing owned and operated through the housing authority, which is just another neat name for project-based. Section 202, supportive housing for generally serving the low-income people age 62 years and older. And so you have NEDs and non-NEDs, and that means non-elderly and elderly. Section 202 is actually a subsection of Title 24, and it speaks in respect to assisting people with housing that are 62 years and old, and also include having a disability. And then you move on from there. We have HUD subsidized senior properties. These are special designation properties, which may be mixed use. It means they may have solely only accept seniors, or they may be mixed use where they allow Section 202 and 811 to blend in the same building, and all of it's what they call quaintly as tenant-based housing. And so we move on to the next financial protections that may help seniors. For these notes here, I'm just going to include them in the bottom because I don't really want to Paul parrot this all the way through the video. And I'm pretty sure that most of you can read very well and make a distinction as to how that would be able to service you. So I'm going to take a look at the time. We're at about 12 minutes. I'm going to almost wrap this up. It's going to say a few words and then we'll wrap it up. So, in our upcoming videos, I'm trying to figure out right now whether or not it would be suitable to kind of run additional video in the background, not just my face and, of course, a non-moving advert or advertisement. I'll be exploring that along with background music, but it takes me time. I'm older, so I don't always adapt very quickly, and I have to learn the technology. So hopefully in the next days, weeks, and months, I will figure that out, and you'll have something else you can watch besides me carry on, right? Anyways, I've enjoyed talking with you guys today, and again, our phone number, email, and websites up there, and you're welcome to look into the reputation of the company and so on. We offer very affordable options, some of the most affordable in the market in terms of talking with clients. It gives you a chance to get all the answers to your questions. All right, guys, enjoy your week. We'll see you again.